very mental. And so I could barely run a mile without stopping. Then I got hooked, and then I said, let's run a marathon. And then I ended up running 4 last year. I've
Yeah.
an addictive personality.
Nice. That's awesome. I mean, we all have our outlets. That's a great way to use it, I guess. That's
Yes,
awesome.
absolutely. Raul,
I
how was
usually only run if somebody's chasing me with something, a sharp object.
You guys have to do a lot of running for training, no?
I mix it up. I do like more short interval, high intensity stuff. I do more, if I have to do long distance, it's not running. It's like, I don't really like to run actually. I do, but it's not, I don't like to. So I do a lot of jump roping, swimming, incline sprints, things like that. I rather just get it fast and out of the way than that long distance stuff. I'm not about that.
Understood. Cool. Raul, are we ready to rock?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. Okay, so everybody's sounding good. Video looks good. So I'm going to mute myself, hit record on everything, and then Craig, you just look for my thumbs up, and then you can get started. Okay? Thanks, everybody.
Ashley, when I introduce you, you like me to use your nickname?
You can. Everybody does.
Yeah, Spider Monkey?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's awesome. Right. On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. She is a professional UFC fighter, a badass in all facets of life, and most importantly, she's an overall phenomenal human being. She is a Spider Monkey, Ashley Yoder. Ashley, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for making time. I know you're very busy right now with the training. You have a fight coming up, and I'm so excited for you to be here today. I promise you this, we will manufacture magic here together today.
Hey, I'm excited.
So I know most people, when they interview you or speak to you, they probably ask you about upcoming fights and a lot about the training. And obviously I do want to find out a lot about that. But for me, with my show, what I usually do is we have very recognizable and well-known names on, and most people know about all the success that people like yourself have had. But what I think is so valuable for the audience is some of the things that people don't always see, which is the mindset required when you had to overcome adversity and obstacles in your life. And you've overcome quite a few, and you're thriving, you're on fire. And in my personal opinion, your best is yet to come. So I'm super excited to just dive in and kind of see, what makes someone their DNA to be so successful like you are today. It all started for you back in Indiana. Is that right?
Correct.
That's where you were born and raised?
I'm a Hoosier, born and raised.
That's awesome.
It comes out in some of my sentences. You'll be like, oh man, that was real redneck.
Well, I could definitely hear an accent to you, but I have to believe you hear one from me as well, right?
Yeah, as soon as you turned on the video, I was like, oh, he's an East Coast guy. Okay.
Is it that obvious?
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's not a bad thing. It's awesome. I have a bunch. It's very unique. It's funny. I like it a lot. It's awesome.
Have you been out to New York?
Yeah, my first fight in the UFC was in New York.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've ever been to New York, actually.
Wow, what an experience.
It was cold. Yeah, it was upstate New York, Albany. So.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
So for you, everyone knows where you are now, crushing it in on fire with the UFC, but MMA wasn't necessarily your first love back in the day, correct?
Not at all. No, I actually didn't even like to fight. I'm more of a class clown. I like to make people laugh. If you watch my Instagram, that's pretty much where I strive, like finding really funny videos or what I think are funny videos. So yeah, I like to make people laugh. I never wanted to be a fighter. I've never been in a street fight. So yeah.
I think that's what's so relatable to me about you is your personality, because on the exterior, you look like a badass. You don't mess with me. But I love that you have such a great sense of humor. You love to laugh. That's one of the things that, is part of my DNA as well.
Yeah, it's like literally what gets me through the day. You have to laugh, right? It has Absolutely.
Life can't take it too seriously. We're on borrowed time. You have to make the most of it and have fun, smile. Were you into athletics when you were younger, Ashley?
Yeah, I was a swimmer. I did some track stuff, but that's pretty much it. I didn't do any of like the volleyball or the like basketball, the traditional type things. I was like, if I did track, I only wanted to do high jump. If I did, I don't like, I told you this earlier. I'm not a very long distance runner. I'm serious. I'll swim long distance, no problem. But anything with running, it's like if someone has a sharp object or someone's holding a cupcake, like, oh, there's a house of cupcakes, go run there. I'm like, all right. And then I'll go.
So what's the farthest you ran, like when you were in track, when you were younger?
I got forced at one point to run I think like a couple miles. But I mean, for a while, when I first started fighting, I was running 5 miles a day when I was in college. Because that's the only thing I knew. Like I didn't really have an idea about lifting weights and those kind of things that come along with like the strength and conditioning of being a fighter. I was just like, oh, I'll just go run a lot. So that was like the most I did. But I was running like 5 miles on campus almost every day. So
You liked it or not really?
I mean, it was all right. Anything more than 5 miles, I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I would rather do something else.
That's what a lot of people say. And I saw your face before when I told you about the marathons, like this psychopath.
You said 4 in 1 year?
Yeah.
That how are your legs still operating? That's that to me, the running, I always get injuries after a certain amount of time, right?
Oh, really?
My side of my knee, but it's also because I do jiu-jitsu and I'm forcing my body to do positions and my legs hold position. So as a runner, I guess I just don't understand how you keep your body from literally not falling apart after a certain amount of time.
I understand. I don't think it's natural for the body to run 26.2 miles in one sitting, but it is a fun challenge.
I mean, that's awesome.
I appreciate that.
I'd rather get punched in the face, honestly. So
that's great. So if running is not really a big part of your training, what do you do? And then we'll go back again. What do you do for cardio?
I do interval, any kind of interval training, like uphill sprints. My conditioning coaches actually have a treadmill that goes up pretty high, higher than a normal treadmill.
Really?
So yeah, it's crazy. So we'll do sprints on that. I jump rope a lot. I swim. I do a little bit of running. I can't lie to you. I like to rollerblade. I just started rollerblading.
Nice.
But it's kind of funny when I'm in the park and we're always talking. I have 2 dogs, so we're always talking to people, and then they're always like, "Oh, what do you do?" And they're like, "Oh, there's no way you're a professional athlete." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still learning the rollerblades. Okay, leave me alone." But I'm always willing to try new stuff, so I like to try anything that's going to get my heart rate up. But I mean, I've tried everything from tennis. I like to snowboard. I'm pretty active on that side of it.
Nice.
I've just never the basketball journey, those kind of volleyball. I've never really been into those kind of things. So
Understood. So when you were doing track, when was that? Was that early, like in high school or college?
High school. I was in high school. I was actually a cheerleader. And did track, swimming. Yeah, so those were all earlier. As soon as I got to college, I think is when also, fighting kind of gave me an outlet to kind of get more athletic, but I didn't really choose a sport when I went into college. I just wanted to kind of experience it for what it was.
Understood. So in high school, you were a little bit of a jock, like a tomboy.
No. I was literally like a class clown. I was more into, I did cheerleading for 4 years. I danced for fun. So, I had that girly side, but I still I lived on 188 acres. Me and my brother had 4-wheelers, horses. We'd always do stuff like that. So I guess if you call it a tomboy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so you went to Indiana for college?
Yeah. Hoosiers.
Was that always the goal?
IU? No. I wanted to be further from home, but I had some life experiences that actually when I had a tragedy in my life, I almost didn't go to college. I was just kind of really lost. And then ended up, I lost my brother on my 18th birthday. It was a sudden, he was passed in a car accident. So
it was on your birthday?
Yeah. So it was a really rough time And it was, it's one of those places that, it's kind of like, I guess, being a parent for the first time. There's no really right way to kind of deal with it. People have lost people before, but in my sense, when I had that experience, I didn't think, because of the situation, like my brother passed away on my birthday, I didn't think that anyone could understand what I was going through. And, I was 18, really dumb at the time.
Yeah.
I just I shut down. And that was the opposite of what I've always been. I've always been a really happy, outgoing, make you laugh type person. And that was a period of my time that I just shut everybody off. Like I just didn't want to go to college. Didn't want to, I don't think I came out of the house for maybe a couple months. So it was a rough time, but
very close with him.
Yeah. It was just me and my brother. So it's always getting the crap beat out of me by him. So, it's always
my best friend in the world. So I can only imagine.
He should be. That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
It makes me really sad when I hear people like, I haven't talked to my brother or my sister for years. I'm like, man, you need to heal that relationship. Yeah. Even if it's not sometimes we're just to be, oh, hello.
I'm here.
Oh, I'm getting Zoom called from, hopefully not the UFC. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
That's another thing about my life. I pretty much have to tell UFC where I'm at. Huh?
I said, tell Dana to get in line.
Right? It's usually the drug testing people too. So USADA shows up whenever, wherever they want. I have to tell them where I'm at all times. So that's always something. And I'm really close to my fight. So it's very touchy time right now. So
I understand. I appreciate you making the time.
No, I'm hurt. I'm so sorry. Anyway, yeah. So it was,
people always say, I can't believe you're that close with your brother. They think it's weird. We speak every single day, 100 times a day via text. And I agree with you. People, it's a blessing to be close with your family.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really cool that you guys are best friends. It's not a lot of people that, everybody I know now, has a good relationship, but it should be your best friend, right? You guys have no matter what happens in your life, how much money you don't have, they love you for you. And that's one of the things that you can always have as a family. Most families can have all the time. I'm not at that point in my life where I have greed because I make that much money, because as a fighter, we definitely don't make a lot of money that we should. But
you recently signed a new deal, right?
Yeah, I've actually had 4 contracts now on going on 8 fights.
Nice.
So what they can do is they supersede your contract. You get new contracts if you do well. And fortunately, they think I do well in all my fights. So I've been blessed enough that they keep re-signing me early. So
good.
That means pay raise. So it's nice. I love what I do. I'll take this pay, especially when you fight back to back. Yeah. It's kind of 30 minutes of work for a lot of money. So
understood.
Take it.
So when that happened with your brother?
He was actually he was a crazy story. So my birthday is in October. We always have a Halloween type party.
Nice.
We live, like I said, on 188 acres. We were going to have a Halloween party. So it was my 18th birthday. My brother's best friend was in the forces. He was fighting overseas, but he left his motorcycle at our house. And we grew up riding on motorcycles, and it wasn't like he didn't know what he had his permit. He knew what he was doing. It was in the middle of the day. And he decided to leave to go on a ride during the day before I had my birthday party. And somebody pulled out in front of him while he was driving on the highway. And it was actually a 92-year-old man that probably should not have been driving. But my brother actually did the most responsible thing. He didn't have time to get over because the guy was in the middle of the lane. So he tried to drop the bike. He did drop the bike successfully, but the tire caught the other tire of the car. And it was just a really weird circumstance. My brother, as kids, if you're any kind of kid that we were always playing with dirt bikes, getting broken limbs from snowboarding. Nice. So he actually, it was just a puncture of a vital organ. But he didn't look when he had passed, he didn't look like he was in an actual accident. So it was just kind of a very weird, but it was the worst part about it. I actually passed the wreck when it happened. And I knew it was the weirdest thing. People always talk about this. And I'm my friends thought I was crazy. I was that's Michael. And they're like, there's no way that's Michael. Like it was just like a movie type scenario when it happened. So I was very traumatized, I think, after that experience. So
something like that happens and unpredictably, you know.
yeah. And then of course, you know, naturally, if I were them then and I was listening to me, I'd be like, yeah, Ashley, you're crazy, you know. But it was something that I, you know, maybe it was just, I just knew, like, it was crazy, and I was right. It was the craziest, most awful day of my life. But I think, you know, from that experience, I always miss my brother. I always loved my brother. For a long time, I suffered with, you know, being in this black place, this negative place from that trauma. And no one should live like that. I don't, you know, no matter what happens to you in your life, you should always, if you're still alive, you should be living every day to the fullest, because that person couldn't do it for that person, you know, whether it's a person, whether, you know, your grandparents, if you're close to them, or, you know, there's no wrong way for anyone to kind of fix that, you know. So you have to do the best with what you can, because if not, you're going to be in this dark place the rest of your life, and that's no way to live. So
yes, and I've been there, not exactly the same, but somewhere similar. And for you, when you were in this dark place and obviously there was a cloud over you, would you say that that was your rock bottom?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, it continued for not 1 year, 2 years. I'm year-ended to celebrate my little cousin's passing, not celebrate, anniversary of passing this weekend. So, you know, I've had a lot of, since then, that absolutely was the worst for me, but I had a lot of death happen in my life in the next, from that point on, from the next maybe 2-3 years. So.
And then, okay. And then from there, this was before college, right?
Yeah. So this happened on my 18th birthday. I was a senior in high school. Of course, naturally, I didn't want to leave my mom. Me, my mom, and my brother were like the three musketeers. My mom and my dad were divorced. Really, I mean, we love our dad. He just lived further away. My mom raised us, you know, most of the time. So we were very close. So it was extremely.
He's your number one fan, correct?
Huh?
He's your number one fan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She. Any person that tries to fight for my number one fan place, my mom makes sure they know who she is. I'm like, Mom.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. So I'm basically a shrine of her Facebook. I'll be like at my friend's house. I'm like, what? All these pictures of me, and they're like, oh, this is your mom posting. I'm like, first of all, why are you friends with my mom? But okay.
I'm proud of you. And rightfully so.
You know, now that I'm a little bit older, I embrace it. I think it's more funny and like.
Absolutely.
But
that's awesome. So were you a little like nervous to leave your mom to go to school?
Absolutely. It was one of the hardest decisions, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't like I wanted to stay, because I knew if I stay in this little ass town, like there's nothing good going to come from it. I would have had to really struggle on figuring out what I was going to be in my life. But I also had it was probably the hardest decision I think I've ever made, is, you know, I really had to make sure that I did an honor to my parents of, you know, doing something great, you know, trying to be the best Ashley, and whatever my brother was missing, try to fulfill that too. You know, I can't let my parents feel like, you know, failures for me suffering with them, you know. So that was kind of, I think, when I was like, we're going to fucking do this. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So I went, which was only 45 minutes away. My mom found out where my key like was to my apartment, and so she was there half the time anyways. Like, I almost called 911. I thought someone was breaking in. Like, my mom was always at my apartment, so I wish I was a little bit further away, but it was all right. It worked out. So
that's awesome. Okay. So then from there, you start to kind of find yourself and get some momentum again in college?
Yeah, you know, it was really well. Not until after my freshman year. So I got to my freshman year, you know, we have that new experience of freedom. Yes. I got into like the partying and like drinking and a little, I mean, probably no more than a regular freshman in college, but it was a lot, you know. It was these parties during the week, and I almost failed out of my freshman year because, you know, I'd rather go party than study. So actually one of my friends invited me into this little rinky-dink gym during the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, like, hey, I know you haven't went to see anybody to talk about your brother, but you can go in here and just beat the shit out of stuff and no one's going to ask you anything. I'm like, sign me up. So I went in, and
This is a big moment for you.
Yeah, it's different. It was such a different moment. It wasn't different in the fact that like me and my brother wrestled around. He'd always like try to beat the crap out of me. So it wasn't like a different and like completely switching up, trying something new. Cause I mean, it was something new, but it was like, I'm used to my brother beating the crap out of me. Now I get to go beat the crap out of people. So
Right.
Yeah, it was a new page for me in my life. And it was the best thing that could have happened. It really was. So I'm very blessed for that, for him to bring that into my life, because if you would have been like, hey, go try out this martial arts, I'm like, yeah, no. And then like did something else, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So right away, so like it clicked, like you knew in your heart, like, wow, this is for me.
After my first fight.
Really?
So let me tell you a little funny story about myself. I'm a lefty, southpaw through and through.
Nice.
You know, a lot of coaches hate that. A lot of people hate that when they fight us, but you know, at the same time, it's, yeah, we're so hard. It's crazy to think how hard, people handle left-handed fighters. It really is crazy, but there's so much more now than there ever have been. So, but yeah, so when I went to this gym, they made me stand right-handed. They never even asked me. They're like, this is how you punch, stand like this. I'm like, I was like, okay, you know, not, huh?
They just assumed you were a righty?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I fought my first fight right-handed. Didn't know what I was doing. It was funny. When I had my first fight, I barely had any experience. I went into this gym, they did ground and pound drill, showed a couple of like arm bar from top, like not like a no-gi type jiu-jitsu situation. And if you have any idea what jiu-jitsu is, like just having a no-gi start at jiu-jitsu is not really a start at jiu-jitsu. A jiu-jitsu, right. You need to kind of learn those kind of fundamentals. But yeah, so I went to my first fight really having no idea I was fighting in a cage. It was an octagon, and it was in Indiana on the state fairgrounds in Indianapolis. The boxing commission at this time hasn't taken over MMA, so there were no rules. So it was like I weighed in, didn't know that there was weigh-ins. Like they're like, oh, stand on this scale. Okay, 128 pounds, cool. Knowing that I had no idea, like there was weight classes at that time. I was like, you know, it was insane. So the girl I fought my first fight, well, they sent me into the cage. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, this is where you'll be competing. I'm like, what? Like, I've never seen a cage in my life. I saw it flipping through the television station when it was like WWE has that cage. Yes. That's what I'm like, isn't that like interesting? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. So I had my first fight. I was scared out of my mind. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into. They shut the cage door, and they have a video of it. It's the funniest video. So they have a video of it. I turn around, and you can see me saying something. I literally turned to my coaches, and I said, yeah, I don't think I want to do this.
Really?
And they're like, too late. Turn around. Yes.
How do I see this video?
It's a CD at my mom's house, but I probably could like upload it now that I have it, but we have a CD. It's the funniest thing.
I want to get my hands on that thing one day.
That was funny for you, because that was like the first of it was a hot mess. So I stood right-handed, and I was almost knocking this girl out. Like, first of all, it was hard for me to even hit her, because they come out and they're like, announce this girl. It's her wedding anniversary. Like, I'm like, what? I'm about to get in a fight with someone at their wedding anniversary. And she steps into the cage. Her name's Lee, and she literally has a butch cut. She's ripped, like strong ripped. Right. And yeah, I was like, holy crap. So I was like, not the person to hit first. I'm like, if she hits me first, like, of course I'm gonna hit her back. So of course she hits me. She's like a brawler. So I decided to get it. It was the best experience I've ever had. It like got all my anger that I had built up for the years, like that whole like, because I started the summer in between, so it had been almost like a year before, like that my brother had passed.
and I just got it all out. It was the bloodiest, craziest fight. Mind you, so there was no boxing commission, so there were no rules on gloves. I had like these Century martial arts gloves that were probably 2 ounces, if that I was fighting with. And it was a gnarly experience. So
That's crazy.
Everywhere. I didn't win. I lost by split decision. But I will tell you, it lit a fire in me that made me want to learn. It made me I wanted to learn more. I wanted to do more. I wanted to fight more. And I had never been in a fight in my life. So it was a crazy experience for me. Laying next to a table of a lady and getting stitched up with her in the middle of a state fairgrounds. Like, it was the most gnarly redneck thing that you could think of, but it gave me life. And I'm so grateful for that moment, because they always tell you your first fight will tell you if you're made for it or not. You're going to do that fight or flight, right?
Yes.
So it was quite the experience, but it was, just gave me a new gateway to kind of, all right, now I want to learn more. And so I had 4 more amateur fights, and then I moved to California.
So did you graduate college?
Yeah, 2 degrees. Yes.
Nice.
Yes, that was the kind of the deal. I wanted to graduate college and then try and move to somewhere that had more advanced like learning for fighting. So one of my friends had just got signed to the UFC. He was a wrestler at IU. He fought on like little shows like me. And then he made it to the UFC, and he was like, hey, come out to California, Team Quest. There's like a bunch of girls here. So I decided to pack all my stuff up. I had a Trailblazer, and I moved to California.
That's awesome. So just to go back for a second, after that first fight, you knew right there, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the path I'm going down.
100%. Now, I wanted to go down. I didn't know about the professional life. I didn't know at the time about UFC. I just knew this is what I want to do right now. This is like whether I have to have 5 jobs, because I've always had like 2 jobs just to be able to pay, like do whatever I want. I've always had 2 jobs. I was a lifeguard, snowboard instructor, that like I've had it all, like waitress, like serving jobs, so.
Unbelievable work ethic, Ashley.
Yeah, I get that from my dad. Thanks, Dad. So, but yeah, so I that's where it definitely all started, and it's just grown. It's crazy to think where I'm at now from there, and that's just been. I started in 2008, so that was my first fight, 2008, as an amateur.
That was the one that you just told me about?
Yeah.
And then you drove out to Cali. Mm-hmm. And you basically burned the ships, as I like to say, where there was no retreat. This is what it is. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, what's crazy? No one believed that I was going to move to California. I had my cousin lived in LA. She does video games. So like, no one believed it. They're like, you're not about to move to the other side of the country by yourself to go learn how to fight. I'm like, watch me, hold my beer. No, I was kidding. So I did that. The worst drive ever. I'll never, ever, if I move back.
Actually, the sound's cutting out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I just said, like if I ever move back, I will never drive again. That was the worst. It was the longest drive.
How long is it?
Well, we made it like a 4-day trip. So we would drive during the day, stop and like eat and like kind of check out whatever city we were. So that it was a good experience, but I'm just like running long distance. I don't like driving long distance. Like I fly to Oakland. I don't drive here. Everybody's like, why don't you drive? It's like only 7 hours. I'm like, do you realize like after your body gets beat up, like you don't want to sit in a car for 7 hours. I've tried it. It doesn't work. So yeah, I like to fly. So, but it was an experience coming out to California, stopping, we stopped in Vegas, stopping in all these kind of landmark areas on the way from the Midwest to the West Coast. So
what was your mom's reaction when you said, this is what I'm going to do?
Oh, she freaked out. I mean, she wanted me to be a fighter, no doubt. My dad wouldn't even talk about it. Huh?
Your mom did want you to be a fighter.
Yeah. My mom was my number 1 fan. Yeah, like this is no lie. She would come to my amateur fights, and if you were sitting in the vicinity of my mom within reaching distance, if you weren't cheering for me, she was gonna hit you in the back of the head, and that's not. After my fights, and I had won, the ring card girls come into the Octagon. I was actually for Chris Lytle's Lights Out promotion.
the girls come into I will never forget this, the Octagon, and they're like, so your mom cornered us in the bathroom and said that we needed to cheer for you. We knew you were going to win, but we should just tell you. Like, oh my, I am so sorry. Like, my mom's hardcore fan. So like, she's all about being into doing this, and she knows the reason why I started it. She understands it was like an anger management outlet for me. My dad,
you need an outlet.
Yeah, it was definitely the best outlet possible.
Yeah.
You know, you can go punch stuff and not get arrested, or, you know, have to talk about it. That's the best part. I didn't want to talk about the things I was struggling with internally, but yeah, so that was.
Everybody handles things differently, and what you did is really remarkable, and I love that. And thank God that your friend at college introduced you to this, because who knows, you know, where you'd be today if not. But what a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100%. Yeah, I'm grateful. Very grateful for everything I've been and experienced in life, you know, including the tragedy of my brother. I think it's made me who I am. You know, you have to be a strong person to be able to go through these things and see a different light than the dark side.
You
the brain
have
light
to
to
go through some stuff like
struggling
that.
is a blessing to me. So I'm excited.
You have to go through tough times and darkness so that you can get stronger and then appreciate the light and all the life that's out there. And you haven't shied away from that. You embraced it. And I love that about you. So as soon as you got to California, then what? Went from there to turning pro? How did that go?
Okay, so I had 4 more amateur fights at Team Quest. Dan Henderson, he, you know, Hall of Famer. He was an Olympian wrestler. There's Tarek Safadine, all these guys, Sam Alvey, these guys that were already kind of established. They hadn't been in the UFC yet, but they were pretty.
Like, were you a fan?
No, I had no. Dude, I watched fighting WWE. So the first time I met Dan, people are usually really. And to this day, it's really funny. When I met Dan, like, I just thought, I was like, man, your ears are fucked up. Like literally, he's used to people being like really weird around him. Like, they kind of like fanboy him, fangirl him.
Sure.
Dan, all the time. Even to this day, it gets really weird. Like, my friends that are wrestlers that come around him, they will act so normal until they see him. I'm like, why are you acting weird? Like, but he's such an icon, and he's so humble. So I think it was a great experience being brought up under that kind of environment, you know? So that being said, he has a lot of connections. And when I decided to turn pro was because there was the opportunity to be on the Ultimate Fighter. So I had 8 amateur fights at this time. I started kind of knowing what I was doing, but still pretty new to the process.
How did you find like a trainer and a coach and stuff like that?
So my teammate that brought me out to California, he was training at Team Quest. Team Quest is the gym that I'm still at to this day. So he was just signed to the UFC. He actually told me about Team Quest. So I decided to go out and try it for myself. I actually went out for a weekend. I flew out just to see, like, make sure it was legit, you know? And then that's when I actually decided to move. So I went out like I moved out 4th of July weekend. So I went out a couple weekends before that just to try it out. There were like 13 girls there training. And so I was like, hey, I could try this. You know, all I have is student loans. I could just get a job at the gym. They wanted to hire me. So I was like, okay, it's going to work out. I don't need a lot of money. I just need enough to be able to survive. I made a lot of money bartending when I was in college. So I had a lot of money saved up, to move out there. All I had was student loans. I don't have kids. I didn't have, you know, anything important in my life that needed my direct attention at the time.
Responsibilities, I understand.
So yeah, so I was very blessed on that side of it. Moved out, got the opportunity they're like, hey, if you turn pro and get 1 pro fight, you can try out for the Ultimate Fighter. It's the first time they had 115 fighters. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it sounded like a great opportunity. You know, like when things like that come up, you just kind of have to go for it.
Absolutely.
So I tried out for the Ultimate Fighter, or I got my 1 pro fight. I ended up having to fight on Indian Reservation. And the Indian Reservation, if you don't know, is kind of like how the non-commissioned boxing was back when I started amateur fighting. There's no rules. There's no weight classes. There's no blood testing. There's nothing. You just go in and you fight, and they pay you whatever they want to pay you. So I took my first pro fight. I fought a girl that was 165 pounds.
65?
165 pounds. You can look this up. It's
you don't have weight classes, Ashley?
Huh?
You don't have weight classes?
They do, but at the time they don't have to have them. Like I was 125. They're like, oh, you're fine. I was like, oh, but it was kind of one of those things that are like the Ultimate Fighter's coming up. You need a fight. And there wasn't a fight available. So they're like, just take this reservation fight. We'll get you to the tryouts for the Ultimate Fighter. So I finished the fight in 15 seconds. It was crazy. It was God's grace that came into the cage and saved me, because the video of the fight is actually really funny. Someone filmed it in the crowd, right? And you hear them, like, she walks out, she's a big girl. I walk out, and all the people on the, like, whoever's filming is like, oh man, this poor little girl, like, talking about me, like, she's about to get smashed, like, because this girl was huge. And luckily,
40 pounds. It's a big weight difference.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. She was a big girl. Yeah. Big girls need love too. So we gave her that.
How'd you finish her?
Rear naked choke.
Nice.
So she came out swinging, and if she would have landed, I probably would have been dead, not to tell you the story, but she swung like over my head. I jumped on her back via spider monkey style and choked her out. Like I literally, she was standing with me on her head, and we like fell down together. So the only person who used to call me the spider monkey was Dan, because I'm just really fast. My jiu-jitsu style is very like scrambly.
Nice.
So Dan would always call me this, like a little spider monkey. After my first pro fight. Huh?
That's the origin of the nickname?
Yeah, that's where it came from, my first pro fight. So, well, I mean, that's where it came from. But after that first pro fight, everybody started calling me that. Like, he didn't have to tell anybody. It was just like, I looked like, I jumped on this girl's head, and, and then it just stuck. And it's, of course, not a name that I've embraced it over the years, but it's like, that's not a cool name. Like, I'm a spider monkey. So I always post, if you see any of my Instagram, I always post like the craziest looking spider monkeys, and like virtually identical. So I've definitely embraced it over the years, but I definitely didn't give myself that name. That's for sure.
I think it's badass. So you finished in 15 seconds?
Yeah, 15 seconds. 15 seconds rear naked choke. But what's crazy? They listed it on the website as an armbar, which later after that, I started finishing everybody with arm bars. So it's kind of funny, but it was definitely a rear naked choke, not an armbar. So I had that fight. I went and tried out for the Ultimate Fighter. Didn't make it. I was heartbroken. I was so heartbroken.
You felt
for
like
what
that was your
reasons?
opportunity.
Yeah, I just felt like I lost the only opportunity, because it's the first time for 115 females. It's probably never going to come back. But it was the best thing that happened to me. It took me to another dark place. But you can do one of two things. You can, tighten your little bootstraps and keep chucking, or, you can dwell in that and feel sorry for yourself and not do shit. So I was like, all right, it ended up turning into the best thing in my career, because I went back, took more fights, got more confidence, had one of the most craziest fights in my career to this day, still one of the craziest fights in my career that changed me as a fighter.
And probably as a person.
And as a person, it made me see how tough I was. I had a fight, it was against Liz Tracy, Craziest Fight. So if you ever like watching old fights, it was a really, really, really crazy fight. I mean, if you go through the photo album of the fight, it's me having her in a submission, her having me in a submission for 15 minutes, throwing each other.
Highlights last night.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it was a good experience, because there was a point that she had my back. She was choking me out at the end of the second. And everything started, I don't know if you've ever been choked unconscious, but it's not a fun sight. Like not. Everything starts getting like, it's like a movie. Everything starts getting like slow zoomed. And I just remember my coach, excuse my French, he's like, don't you fucking tap. Don't you fucking tap. I was like, I'm not going to tap, but I'm not going to go sleep. Like that was the thought in my head. So the bell rings, I make it. I didn't get unconscious, right?
You were fading though for a second?
Huh?
You were fading there for a moment?
Oh, for sure. Like everything was like fuzzy, and it was
lights were dimming.
It was close. It was very borderline. And then the third round came, and I had her in the same position at the bell. So it was a crazy fight. I ended up winning that fight by split decision. It changed me as a fighter, so it was a great experience. And then I got the opportunity to try out for the Ultimate Fighter again.
it came back. It was a 115/205er, which means your spot to be on the show was even smaller than the first time, because the first time was all 115ers. Now you're sharing a spot of 8 positions with anybody in the world that can try out for this show, to be on the show. So
just real quickly, I just want to say to the audience how valuable this is, what Ashley's telling us. She was heartbroken and devastated after she thought she missed her opportunity with Ultimate Fighter. And, you know, like she said earlier, she had one of 2 options here. You can sulk about it, cry, have a pity party, or you can get the fuck up and make shit happen. And I love that you did that. And I'm not surprised that you got another opportunity. It was much deserved and good for you. That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's when you say it, it means so much more than when I say it, because right, I've already experienced like traumatized, self-doubt, don't know, kind of being lost, and then the opportunity years later happens again, but in a different form, right? So it's not like heartbroken. I mean, I was heartbroken, but it's a different, losing a family member into tragedy is way worse than not having an opportunity to do something that you think you love. So but it was a different hurt. It still hurt really bad.
You feel that. I know.
Yeah, you know, so you have to say fuck it, like, and try a different outlet, you know, if that's what you really want. And that's with anything in life. If you really want something, I am living proof that someone that has never been really athletic, never really is at the highest level of what she loves to do in such a short time, that never had a background as a child in martial arts, because you can't tell me no. Like, you can tell me no, but I'm like, oh, they don't mean it. Like, oh, I'll just keep trying. So that's the biggest thing, is not letting people or anyone, or even your own mind, that doubt creep in. You have to just keep pushing. And even if it's there, put a towel or blanket over it and just focus somewhere else.
I love that, because we all have that voice in the head. It's no one's exempt from that. And
yeah,
you can let the voice defeat you, or essentially you can let the voice speak to you and then say, beat it, stiff arm it, and then keep going down the path that you're going. And you're so mentally tough. And I admire that so much about you.
you know, I'm still, there's always battles, right? I'm still,
The journey.
Yeah, the journey. It's always a journey. So I got on the Ultimate Fighter, which is crazy. So you go to this tryout and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And not only are they trying to get, like, it's an interview process. So it's personality process until it's actually time for the elimination fight. So to get even on the opportunity to fight, you kind of have to just show, luckily, you know, they liked my personality. They wanted me to try out, or they wanted me to. So they're like, all right, we're going to give you the girl that we want to win the show. So they get, after that point, the UFC matches up the elimination fights for who they basically kind of want in the house versus the underdog, right?
How do they determine who they want? Like someone who they think could be a star?
So the Fox, yeah, personality wise, right? They're not going to take someone that's really quiet, that doesn't really have a lot of personality.
Well, just charisma.
Yeah, they want charisma. It's a television show. It's still a reality show. It's very reality. There's no written scripts, but they want like this crazy guy that's going to try to bang all the girls. They want this girl that's going to be like, F you guys. Like, they want those personalities to kind of flash and create magic, right? Yeah. So they, I got the opportunity to try out for the elimination fights. Craziest experience too. So you pack all your stuff like you're staying there for 7 weeks. You go and fight. If you win, your stuff's waiting at the new house for you. If you lose, your stuff's already at the airport.
Oh, shit.
Like you don't have the opportunity. You don't get to talk to anybody. It's like you fight, you go to the house. You lose, you go into the airport.
Sink or swim.
So you have to prep like you're going to be gone for 7 weeks. You know, like, you don't have the opportunity to be like, well, I might be gone for, no, you have to think like, I'm going to be gone for 7 weeks. That's a long time to be away from your bills, your house, your dogs, you know, all these things. So I went on to the elimination fight and they matched me up. Of course, they tell you who you're matched up with. This is another crazy thing. You don't know who you're fighting on the elimination fight until the 2 days before you fight them.
That's great.
Everybody. So they matched us all up. I got one of the tougher girls, like, of all the girls that were trying out. My teammate was like, just don't fight this girl or this girl. And I mean, you don't get the choice, but he's like, you should be fine. And of course I get one of those, of the two, for my first fight.
like, thanks, Sam. Like, so we went in, and I just went in, you know, she had kickboxing experience. She was a known fighter. Her boyfriend was in the UFC. Her fiance was in the UFC. Clearly they wanted her on the show. No one knows me. I don't have a background. I'm just kind of like this dark, I always call it the dark goat. I'm not a horse. I'm like just a goat. I'm a dark goat. So this was a thing.
That's great.
That we went in, and you know, we had another crazy fight, got on the show, and it changed my life. You know, it changed my life. So once again, I get on the show, have a crazy experience. You're living, eating, breathing. There's no books, no television, no TV, like there's no text messages, no phones. The only book you can have is the Bible. You can have a journal, but you're living your life with these random strangers for the next 7 weeks. There's no doors on any of the rooms. It's a big, gigantic mountain of a house. Like, it's a very nice house. You're in bunk bed style, and you have to wear this necklace. If you ever watch The Ultimate Fighter, you always see them wearing these Octagon. That's our microphones. You have to wear it at all times or you get fined. So your life was training, sleeping, eating, and you can have whatever you want, but if you miss weight, you'll never fight for the UFC. So it was a very much reality show, because of personalities they wanted in the house.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the people that
disciplined, you can't be off track at all, or you're gone.
Yeah. So you could have beer every night. There's like beer sponsors.
Really?
So they'll bring beer, alcohol, they bring all this stuff, but it's like up to your willpower not to do it.
Sure.
You know, I mean, or you could do it, but hopefully you win your fight. Right. So, it was a really cool experience. I made my best friends on there. The cool thing about both of the teams, I'm still really good friends with everybody, that a lot of people that were on the show.
Really
so
fun.
It goes from 32 people trying to fight. They fight to win and to get into these 16 positions, 8 guys, 8 girls. They split those 2 teams up, 4 girls, 4 guys. And then you compete against each other, 1 fight at a time, twice a week for, you know, they do 7 weeks. So, and then it gets televised on Fox. It's a 12-week show. And yeah, it was a crazy experience. It taught me a lot about myself, because at that point you don't have your coaches to kind of guide you. You kind of have these random coaches that you don't really know, that you just have to trust. Right. So, and then you're training, you could potentially be fighting with some of the teammates that you're training with every day. So it was just a really mind game on that side of it, but we got through it. Yeah. So was
this called Tough?
Yeah. The Ultimate Fighter, Tough. Mm-hmm.
So how come, what's the difference between Tough and just the Ultimate Fighter?
It's the same. So the Ultimate Fighter is Tough shortened down.
Understood. Okay. So what?
And I think that's why they named it, because it's like tough. You know, you're tough because you're a fighter. I don't know.
Yeah. That's
but
what
yeah, so they got rid of the show actually when we got rid of Fox and went over to ESPN recently. Yes. But they're actually bringing the show back. So once again, like. After the show was over, they only kept, so I went 1-1 on the show. The second girl that I told you, my teammate told me he didn't want me to fight, I got her. She was the last fight. She was the toughest fight. And I was the last fight on the season. So one of the things that we also do on the season, they make you sign a non-disclosure agreement for $2 million. So when the show's over, you can't tell anybody for the next 12 weeks what happened on the show. Not anything, not
crazy.
Anything. So I lost my second one by decision.
But did you tell your mom what happened?
Oh yeah, my mom and my best friend knew. Yeah, 100%.
Your secret.
But I was like, you can't, you know, of course you can't tell anybody. So when I got back to the gym, though, I had black eyes, and I'm like, where were you? And my coach is like, oh, she was on a snowboarding trip. She had an accident, so she went, you know, like for 7 weeks. Like, I mean, you know, it's just so hard. But one of the craziest things I will tell you is, you're on the show with people that, you know, we can talk about these things. There's no music. So when I came back and I was just in the gym and there's music playing, people talking, people asking me questions, it was almost like a PTSD experience. It literally makes you like, you're going from so much quiet to so loud. So it was a really interesting, I don't want to say PTSD because, you know, I didn't fight for anybody's life, but it was a very traumatic experience coming back to get acclimated into a normal environment. So yeah, it was crazy.
Who took care of your dogs during this time?
Some of my best friends from the gym. They had my dogs for 7 weeks. Yeah.
Right. So when it was all over, That was it?
Yeah, oh, man, they brought my dogs to the airport when they picked me up. So they give you your phone back 24 hours before they bring you back home. That's when I can call someone, hey, can you come pick me up from the airport? Hopefully you have a good friend, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah. So they brought my dogs to the airport to pick me up, and my dogs were like going crazy. My dogs are my babies. So it was fun. It was quite the experience.
So then you got signed?
No, so they didn't keep any of us. They cut us out. So another block in the road. They
Another
normally,
big obstacle.
oh man, such an obstacle. It was crazy because at that point, people know you now. They know that you're on the Ultimate Fighter. You have a face that can be for any small show, bring light to that show. So people want to lock you in contracts. They were doing all this crazy shit. Like they didn't want to give you just one fight because at the end of the day, the Ultimate or the UFC were in contacts with me saying, just get one more fight and we'll get a win and we'll bring you back. And 100% they stayed true to their word. And that's when, I got that fight for Invicta, fought on a Friday and got signed on a Monday. So they were really, it was surreal. It was surreal. I had just fought. It was in Kansas City for an all-female organization. And then I get the call while I'm teaching. I came back to teach on Monday. And they're like, hey, UFC said they have a fight for you if you want a contract. They're like, they don't care if you win, lose, whatever. They're like, you step in and face this girl, they're going to sign you on a 4-fight contract. I'm like, who's the girl? And of course it's one of the craziest fighters. Like she's a Russian Muay Thai champion. Like I've watched
You wouldn't have it any other way, Ashley.
I watched this girl and I'm like, no, I'm not fighting her. You want me to die? Like, are you serious? And I told my coach, no. I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice my life. Like, this girl's like one of the gnarliest Muay Thai fighters. And if you know anything about Muay Thai, I think Muay Thai is the craziest sport to do because you have those elbows, you have knees. There's more power generated in elbows, knees, and kicks than anything in any sport. So, very dangerous sport. So I said no. My coach told the UFC, I said yes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
And it was, at the end of the day, it was the best experience. I'm so glad he did that because where would I be if I didn't man up? Who knows? Might have been. You don't know. You just don't know where you'd be. So I took the fight. A week later, I fought in New York. I went to New York for the first time, upstate New York, Albany.
How cool is that?
It was crazy. I was like, not only am I going to New York for the first time, I'm like, it's middle of the winter. It was, well, not middle, it was December. So it was winter. It was cold there. And I was fighting a Russian Muay Thai champion, past Muay Thai champion. Everybody knows her. She was tough girl on the first season of Tough. She was on Tough. So it was quite this.
You're fighting at the highest level on the planet. I mean, there's no such thing as an easy fight in the UFC, right?
That's 100% correct. And that's another thing a lot of people overlook. They're, you get into now the politics of it and they're like, oh, that is an easy fight. No, bitch. Like all the fighters in the world, like everybody's tough. Everybody's
the highest
tough.
Level.
And I was new at the time. So not that I thought I was going to get an easy ride. Cause of course my whole fight's coming into being in that position. I had all the tough fighters. Like I've never had a fight that they're like, oh, she's probably going to win. It's always like, oh yeah, she's going to lose. Like, and I kind of embraced that journey. Like I wouldn't have it any other
life. You've never had anything handed to you. You had to work.
Dude, it carries over, right? So it's from life experience to career experience. I've never had the easier fight. I've always had the tougher fights. I've always had some of the toughest girls coming into the UFC. And even before I had management, I have management now. But when I got into the UFC, I didn't have management. When I was talking to people about management, they're like, why are you taking all these hard ass fights? I'm like, I just want to fight, at this point. After my first fight in the UFC, I was like, I'm made for this. Like I can hang, it was the first upset of my career that, the majority of people, including the UFC, thought I should have won and I lost by decision.
Controversial decisions.
Yeah. That was the beginning of them. So
the tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it was hard because, I was in the emergency room. I had staples in my head that night. First time in a New York hospital for 3 hours.
Where?
I had staples in the back of my head from, I was throwing an overhand and she threw a spinning elbow. So my head was down And actually, it's crazy. If you watch that fight, I'm sitting in the corner between the end of the first, and all of a sudden you see my coaches talking to me. You know, you see the back of my head, and all of a sudden you just see it looks like red paint running down my neck. Like it just came out of nowhere, right? So I was looking down and I saw a couple of drops, and I'm used to bloody fights. I'm not scared of my blood. Actually, it kind of, I think, wakes me up. Yes. And I was like, oh shit, where am I bleeding from? They're like, we don't know. They're like, it's fine. So they figured they put some Vaseline in there, and we fought the next 2 rounds. So after the fight, I had dislocated my finger, and then I also had to get staples in the back of my head. So, and then the plane ride home from that fight was quite the experience of coming from New York back to California with all these injuries and not being able to put your head back. Like it was, yeah, that was awful. So
up until this point, have you ever been really injured?
No, I never had staples in my life. I've had stitches, but nothing broken. I think my finger being dislocated was the start of many dislocations and stuff. But yeah, you don't feel it when you're in the fight.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, you have so much adrenaline. But it's crazy, as much as you've been in the industry now, like I can tell you exactly when my adrenaline stops. It's about 20 minutes after I step out of the cage, because you're just feeling like you weren't in a fight. And then at that 20-minute mark, you can't walk. Like, even if I've had the best fights, like my feet, everything hurts from throwing kicks, from, you know, all the impact that you had on the fight. Yeah, you feel that. So yeah, it was not the best experience. And then I just remember being in the hospital, and they put all the UFC fighters in like an emergency room that have to get like medical aid.
Really?
And like all these guys are like, congrats on your win. I'm like, I didn't win. They're like, what? They left right before the decision was being called. And so that was the first of a couple that didn't go my way, that, but the UFC was really gracious to me. Not only they thought I won that fight, they gave me the opportunity to fight again pretty quickly, not as quickly as now, but they're like, hey, get it together, get healed up. We have another fight for you. So
that's awesome. They're very loyal to you, and they appreciate the fact that, you gave it your all, and you probably deserved a different result than the judge gave you.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of the higher guys in the UFC not only come to me and talk to me like in person, and
that's really special.
Keep your head up. So yeah, that was a blessing for sure.
Do you have a relationship with Dana White?
Yeah, he's really cool. He's really nice to me, actually. He's when I fought Mackenzie Dern, especially, they were very like him, and the Fertitas didn't even own the UFC at the time. They were all, on my phone. It's crazy when you walk back to your phone from your fight and you have these high level people like, sure, you won that fight, keep your head up. Like man, at that time, that was my second experience of what was like, you could consider a bad decision or whatever. It is what it is. You kind of sound like a douchebag when you tell people that haven't seen it, like, yeah, I should have won that fight. But, at the end of the day, I just have to be gracious for the opportunity, and I go out to fight. So win, lose, or draw, people know that when I step in the octagon, they're going to get a fun fight. So that's something I like to live up for. So
how do you deal with, I don't want to use the word frustration, Ashley, but when a result happens, it's out of your control and you don't necessarily agree with it, what's the mindset like to overcome that and power through and keep on keeping on?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like that throwing that blanket over it again, right? I just throw blankets over the past, because the past is the past. We have to focus on if I focused on my first loss, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Right.
I would be trying, one of the things is being in the UFC at such an experience that I've had, not really, I'm kind of learning on the job. And it's something that, a lot of people that are in the UFC are high level athletes, whether it's wrestling in the Olympics or being professional kickboxer, coming over to the UFC and being an MMA fighter. There's all these people that have had experience in point fighting and understanding competition and fighting where I haven't. So one thing that I bring to the table is I'm tough as nails. So I can handle a punch. I like a brawl. And in the eyes of the judges, as you get older, you realize that that's not always the way to go. You can't take so much damage every fight just to give 3 blows, even though they might be the better blows of the
those, but you know, there's point fighting is a thing. The politics are real. And so it's, you know, as I'm getting into being more as a veteran in the UFC, it's something that I'm trying to be smarter about, because you do see the effects of being hit a lot. I stutter, I forget things.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a pretty thing to admit, and it's real though. That's the real sides of being a fighter.
To me, you seem sharp as a tack.
Well, that's because I mean, you have you'll see it. Like if you really pay attention to how I talk, sometimes I will stutter or forget words, simple words. But I've only been in the game. I mean, I've been in the game for a minute, but I've taken a lot of damage in that little time, you know? So I'm trying to be a smarter fighter now and
More strategic.
more strategic. Yes. Try to take less punishment, realizing you can move your head offline and give someone a straight down the middle without taking one. So, you know, I'm still learning. And I right there, see, I stutter a little bit. And it might be something that a lot of people don't know, but I've never did that before. So I've noticed it in the last couple of years that it's more of a problem. So I'm very grateful that I have 2 college degrees to fall back. No,
Yes.
but yeah, I'm trying to keep my brain cells, but you know, it's part of the fight game too. So, you know, going back to what you said, when you lose, I started losing wind in the sails a little bit, you know, getting these decisions that were like, I'm putting it all out there and I'm not getting the results, you know, I'm putting it all out there and I try to change some stuff, not getting the results. And I've had kind of a rough career on that side from the judging perspective. Right. So, you know, I'm just trying to be smarter now. And you have to just, if you really want it, which I do, I love fighting. I don't know what I would be without being a fighter. And you just have to put it all on the line and try to fix those mistakes every fight. So win or loss, they say you have to learn. And I've definitely learned. I feel like as a 30-year-old fighter, you know, I got into the game late. I'm still learning. You know, I come up.
Young.
No, I'm 32 actually. So, but we round down. But
You
you
refer
know,
to
I'm still,
yourself as a fighter. That's so symbolic to me. Speaking to you, I feel like I know you very well just from this last hour, which has been amazing. But
you know my life.
you're a professional fighter, but you're also a fighter in life. And that's what I find so relatable and I love about you.
Yeah, it's, you know, it is a blessing to be able to have this platform. And, you know, thank you for having me again, to be able to give people, like, hopefully some ounce of light and hope that there is more than one path of being a person, whether it's fighting or not. You just have to find that outlet and something that sparks and makes you feel alive. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be into fighting. It could just be an extracurricular activity of, like, you know, snowboarding or something that, you know, that you never thought you would enjoy, but it brings you to life. So you have to find those things.
The 2 things that I admire most about you, actually, number one is your ability to brush off setbacks and then get back up. Everybody falls down if you live life, right? Unless you're not really living, you're just existing, you're just coasting. Anyone who really takes a shot at life, you know, you're going to fall down, but you rise every single time. And I absolutely love about that. But also the thing that really resonates with me is you didn't have experience with MMA and you found it and it lit a fire in you and you felt that spark and then you just burned the ships, no retreat, and you just ran with it. And I want to ask you, for the audience listening, you know, a lot of people are going through life and they're doing things that doesn't set their soul on fire and they wake up and they're not excited about life. What suggestion, what advice could you give someone to go out there and not only find, but pursue what lights their fire?
I think the biggest thing is finding something new that you may not think that is for you. You have to try new things. It would be ridiculous for me to tell you to not go out and try to experience something new that is, say, you know, right now, and going back to, I don't want to sugarcoat my life and say that, you know, I brush off these things. They're hard. Like, I still struggle daily. You know, this is a time of the month, the time of the year that I struggle. You know, I'm healing from my brother's death and my little cousin's death, but it still affects me, you know, and it comes off in energies and bad kind of different vibes now than it used to. I have a mental coach that I've been working with, and, you know, just to give you a perspective of, you know, I'm still you know, you still have your struggles, even when you
all do.
So I work with a guy named Brian Kane who worked with GSP. He's worked with a lot of high level athletes.
Is he a mindset coach?
He's a sports psychology. Yeah. So
Love it.
his name is Brian Kane. He's amazing. I reached out to him because, you know, you get into these mental steps and you need to get over them. So it's just finding someone or finding yourself, like reading books, listen to Audible if you don't have time to read books. There's no excuse not to make time to try to listen to better yourself, right? So that's the biggest thing, like listening to podcasts like this, or, you know, listening to, you know, my biggest thing is Audible because I'm always on the go. So I'll listen to Audible anytime I'm on. And it's just one book after another that you might only find one thing in that whole book that kind of resonates with you or connects with you. And you go from there, and then you try new things. Like, you might not think you've ever liked fighting, and you go to a martial arts academy, and you don't have to be a professional fighter to do martial arts. You know, I know people that I've gotten into that do jiu-jitsu and start competing in jiu-jitsu, and they're 60 years old now. Like, you know, it's for everybody. But it gives you that sense of accomplishment, right? Dedication, and you're learning respect at the same time, whether you're 6 years old or 60 years old. Boxing, anything, you know, it doesn't have to be a martial art, but martial arts is a huge key to being able to express yourself in different ways. And I think that's the biggest thing. I never thought I would enjoy martial arts. I was, you know, even though I lived on a farm, I still consider myself, I've never been in a street fight. It's not like I was going to go fight you. You know, I wasn't that type of person, but, you know, now I will fight you like in an octagon and you have to pay me, but, you know, same thing. When I first started getting fighting and we go out to the bars and things with my friends, they would literally start fights to try to get me to fight people. And I'm like, no. Like, I don't know how to really fight. I just fight in an octagon. Like, so, but it's kind of funny when your friends try to put you in those situations, but don't let them do that. No, I think it's really important, especially kids. We have kids that come to my gym all the time. Yeah. And it's funny now, because before I was just like the person that would like show you the gym, you know, give you the tour. Oh, there's Dan Henderson. Holy crap, Dan Henderson. There's Sam Alvey, who at the time wasn't in the UFC when I first came. And now he's a big name. And now people are starting to recognize me when I come. They're like, oh my God, they get weird with me. They're like, oh, I watched you on Ultimate Fighter. I'm such a huge fan. So, you know,
That's awesome. I'm saying.
Yeah, you have these kids that were like want to be the Ronda Rousey, want to be the Conor McGregor, and they don't understand. Like, even with those guys, like I'm just a little guy compared to them, but they still deal with their struggles too coming up. You know, they and a lot of people don't see the hard work that you have to put in behind the scenes, and the nose and the nose and the nose. Absolutely. And just, you have to believe. And I believe that if I can make it to the UFC, absolutely anybody could. You just have to be able to handle no. That's the biggest thing, right? So.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said, because people always think that my Cultivate Lasting Symphony, my personal development brand, is an overnight success because it started during the pandemic. But what they don't see are the 20-hour days and barely sleeping, barely even have time, you know, to see your family, because you want to build something with all your passion and touch so many lives. And I definitely understand what you're saying. One thing that you just said that resonates with me so much, which I think is so cool, is how I call it sharpening the axe, listening to podcasts, listening to audio books, reading something, journaling, whether it be a movie, a song. You always get at least one thing from something. The world is your oyster, right? And if you get that one special thing and that makes a big impact on your life, that's absolutely priceless. And for the audience listening, you should always be looking to improve, better yourself. Audiobooks on a run, or whatever the case you're doing, you can always find something that could light an extra fire and help you going forward. I love that you do that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and for me too, when I started, you're like, where do you start? How do I journal? I don't know how to journal. Like, one of the first things that someone told me to do, it's journaling, write down random ass words, like whatever is in your head, just write it down. You know, I think one of the things that stops people from developing and growing with themselves is starting, right? That's one of the things that my mental coach has told me, is like, and I never really understood that because I just kind of started blindly, not knowing what I'm doing, right? That's kind of been my motto. Yes. But when it came to this trying to grasp the mentality of being an elite mindset athlete instead of an average mindset athlete, it's you have to get uncomfortable to get that comfort.
to grow. Uncomfortability is going to be what makes you grow. So journaling was one of the roughest things for me to start. People make it sound so easy, and it's not. When you start journaling, it's not, unless you're a natural writer or someone that likes those things as a free time. Me, I wasn't, so journaling was really rough for me to start. And that's one thing that needs to be addressed, is like, it's not easy. People make the journaling part sounding easy, or reading a book or listening to a book and trying to understand, making it easy. It's not, but keep trying until you get something. Write down words, scribble it out, write down pictures, whatever comes in your mind. It doesn't even have to make sense, right? Eventually you'll start getting to that point where you're getting those thoughts out, and then you're like, oh, okay, I got that off my chest. I didn't have to hold that shit in anymore. So that's a big thing too, I think.
Yeah. And there's a quote that I love. It's, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great.
100%. You're right on. That is 100%. Yeah. That's
awesome. Ashley, where do you hang out the most? Where can the audience find you? I know you're on Instagram a lot.
I'm an Instagrammer, and I like Instagram because that's where all the funny videos are. Twitter is too much reading. I don't have time to read. No, I was kidding. Actually, I do read. I'm not completely special. So, so I'm on Instagram. Spider Monkey Yoda is like where I really attach. I still teach classes. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I do privates. I teach fitness classes. So I'm very connected. I have a whole nother Instagram just for my gym, just so my people can, it's sometimes as you start getting more followers, they start putting all these filters and blocks and restrictions on people talking to you and what you can see. So, I have a special Instagram for for my gym people. During the pandemic, I was doing a Zoom for free for anyone. So I had friends from Brazil, I had friends from Indiana,
nice.
Just to make sure people, that's one of the things that I aspire to do, is inspire people through self-care, and trying to help people just change in whatever way to make them feel important, make them feel love for themselves. So I found that in teaching fitness classes at my gym, whether it's jiu-jitsu.
I love that you give it back. I want to ask you, you're one of the most mentally tough athletes at the highest level that I've ever seen and encountered. And I love that. What do you think is more important to the audience watching, talent or the right mindset?
Mindset, man. And I'm still trying to conquer it, but I think talent is always going to only get you so far. I'm an average Joe that busts my butt to be something special, right? And whether some people see that or not, but to be that, you have to have the right mindset. You're not going to get through life, especially in the times that we're living right now, with a weak mindset and an influenced mindset. I think one of the biggest things is we're so guilty, and one of the biggest things that you can do is just trying to find things for yourself. Be a self-thinker. Don't let the majority of these influencers on Instagram or you have to find things for yourself. And I think that's a big thing that we struggle with in America today. I know that people think that I got a blue check mark by my name. My friend's daughter, two of them actually, the day you get signed to the UFC, they put a blue check mark. I had maybe 2,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
They got really weird with me, right? Because they just see this blue check mark next to my name, and all of a sudden think overnight I saw them the day before and think that I'm some kind of crazy celebrity.
Right.
And that's one thing that really irritates me about that, because I'm the same person. I just want to make people laugh, and if I have that platform to do it, it's awesome. But it's really important that we find ourselves and we don't get swayed by majority or what we think is real, because a lot of this stuff on the gram, I can look real cute on the gram, getting photos, editing them, but you also see my pictures from at practice. Right now I look crazy, and I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that for you, but
personally, I think you look great.
That you're sweet, but that's the reality of my life. I try to show the real side as much as possible.
Authentic.
It's very important, and I think everybody should strive to find themselves and not get swayed by the misleading agendas of social media. So
be true, be you, be authentic, be real.
Yeah, it should be a shirt. It probably is, but I like it. Sounds good.
I love that about you. I think that's why we connected so awesome today. And, you know, I have a feeling this won't be the last time we collaborate. I'm a huge fan of yours, the fighter, but more importantly, the human being. So you have a fight
Yeah.
coming up. When can the audience see you? When is the fight and who are you fighting?
My fight is next weekend on ESPN. You can catch it on, if you have ESPN Plus now, ESPN. And I'm not quite sure the times right now. It's kind of up in the air. But if you follow the UFC, or go to UFC.com, it's all listed there. It should be there pretty soon. I'm fighting a lady by the name of Miranda Granger, and it should be a fun fight. I always like to bring everything that I have. And I feel like this fight, I'm going into it as a new fighter because I've done a lot of work mentally on myself. I've been coming up, up north to Dublin, California. I'm working with CSA, some of the best Muay Thai strikers in the world. So getting out of my little comfort zone of Temecula, California, and just, embracing the growth. I've been at the same gym for almost 10 years, and I had to get out and kind of not lose my coaches because I'm still there, but kind of explore other places to get some new fundamentals and arsenals in my fighting techniques. So yeah, next weekend it's going down on Saturday, November 14th.
I'm super excited personally for that. And what a big thing is what you just touched upon is how you grow in the gym and you work on your techniques and your strategies as a fighter. But what you've been working on a lot and you never stop is your mindset. And I could personally say that for me, that's been a game changer in my life is your perspective, how you see things and how you deal with that voice in the head. And the fact that you've been working on that a lot, I'm super excited for you. And I definitely think the best is yet to come for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, everything that you're saying and reiterating, it's so important, and you're doing something great, and don't change, just keep putting that positive. I had no idea when I was asked to do this, like how, I kind of read a little bit, but I'm in the middle of fight camp. So like not even the middle, I'm at the end of fight camp. So this is insane, but I'm very blessed to be able to have you to invite me to give my story, but also you're giving me a chance to, kind of give myself that extra little bump. It's always important to have someone like you that is giving that experience of being positive and overcoming adversity. We have to embrace the adversity and not life. There's no easy path in life. And if you want that easy path, you don't want to live but it's embracing the journey and knowing that we all are going through the same things in different lights and different trades and however you want to break it down. But it's finding what sets you on fire, and you got to run with it. So
that's it. And I just want to say, Ashley, you don't shy away from your struggles as you acknowledge that they shaped you. That's something I find very relatable and liberating. And I want you to know that in my personal opinion, and the audience can definitely confirm this as well, you're the definition of perseverance, grit, heart, from your journey of finding your true authentic self, losing your best friend at an early age, and obviously pursuing and going all in on your passion, leaving absolutely no stone unturned, and ultimately landing in the UFC. I personally guarantee you that your best is yet to come. I think you're on fire. You're just getting started. And personally, not only am I a big fan of you professionally, but like I said earlier, your soul and as a human being, I'm super excited for you. You have a big fan in me, and I'm excited for the future for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, of course. It was great.
Awesome. All righty. Ashley, thank you so much. I really appreciate it today.
Hey, thank you. It was great.
How do you know Lauren? How'd you guys meet?
So Lauren is the sister of my boyfriend. So I'm dating her brother, and she stayed with us for a week.